All right, welcome into the first edition of Rain and Kane on the Road. My name is Jeremy Poplin, and the very first guest in person in the history of the Rain and Kane platform, Rick Corey. You know him, you love him. We used to do radio together until, some stuff went down. But we're back doing radio again, this time for Tulsa on the road for the very first time. And my first time coming to Arkansas State, you haven't been here since the early 2000s. I got to say, this stadium is pretty badass if we're just being honest. I mean, you hear a lot, mainly from the perspective of Hog fan and mainly why they won't play. But you come here and you see now why that this place has been successful the number of times that it has been over the last decade, because you have everything that you need to win right here in this place.
You do. A couple of waterfalls even here behind us. Jeremy's kind of blocking those out. You can't see. They have those in a nice end zone facility they've built here. I mean, it's not, let's be honest, it's not Fayetteville. We understand that. But the number of people they put in the NFL, the number of great players they've had here, and what they've done here, what you can't see behind you in the rest of this press facility, is really fantastic. And by the way, God, what a nice day.
It's unbelievable outside. We're coming to you live from someone very important suite. Behind us, there's a photo of the family. He looks like he's holding up, rock horns or hook 'em horns in the back. That's right. Everyone has to have a hand signal, so I assume that's their version of wolf, but it's basically horns. So this is either the president or the athletic director's suite that we're stealing, because we ride with Bruce Howard, so that means we get here like 14 hours before the broadcast starts. So, but it is a glorious day, and I wanted to bring Rick on to kind of just give you a little preview of what's going to happen coming up tonight at 6 o'clock. And I'll just start with some of your thoughts, and we can just gently go back over last week and what stood out to you in terms of positives from Tulsa's performance.
Well, Kirk was number one, Kirk Francis, and everybody said that. They've said it all week long. And the number of years I've watched Tulsa football, he still reminds me of Paul Smith and TJ Rubley, a kind of a mix of those two guys. Said this on the air last week during the broadcast. When you see him walk to the line of scrimmage, there's just a knowing in the kid's eyes. You're down there. You don't see panic.
No.
He looks when he walks to the line of scrimmage like he knows everything that's going to happen. It's just the way he plays. I was impressed by linebacker play. Thought we found some good receivers. Hate to have the injury to Ballard, but thought some receivers actually stepped forward, and the defensive line was really good. Now, if there's a concern, for me anyway, it's offensive line play. Helped to get Leo Marks back because they were able to shift some guys around, but that's got to get worked on tonight because this group out here can get after him.
Coach Wilson has always been pretty steadfast, and he does not judge the offensive line until you get to the end of the season anyway. He's allowed to do that, one, because he's boss man, and two, he's a former O-lineman. But that, I feel like, will be one of the storylines each and every single week throughout the season with how this young group continues to mature. You got to start somewhere. They did do better in the second half when Ty came back, played majority at guard. So trying to cross-train a few guys, and it's okay to get some of those younger guys experience, especially snapping the football. So I thought that was positive. They made some changes in the running game. Coach Wilson said, 5 carries for a guy that's on the all-conference team at running back, but they got a young group there. I'm incredibly excited about the 4 running backs that they have on the roster, including the additions even at wide receiver. Steptoe, for a guy that had not played an offensive snap in college. Comes over from Purdue, but was a receiver his freshman year, played defensive back last year, transfers. I thought that he has the ability to be their possession guy.
Yes, and you need that. We've seen some of that out of Cam, but Cam's also become a deep threat. Cam Benjamin, who is without a doubt one of the more steady receivers I've ever seen here at Tulsa. He catches balls. He reminds me a little of Josh Atkinson from that standpoint, although they're different physically. But you just knew if you needed to catch, you just go over there and that's going to happen. But I did like seeing him come along too, and I was so pleased for Braylon Presley. The important catch early, but then the catch in all the in the traffic there over the middle on a big play for him. The touchdown, of course, because he looked like himself again. I think it's big to get that confidence back for him.
More than anything, I felt like everything that they told us during fall camp about the vibe being different, about there's more positivity, I could absolutely feel that on the sidelines. And, a lot of times, let me rephrase that. Rarely do you hear a coach that comes out of fall camp and is like, look, we've had a terrible fall camp. All these guys we brought in have been awful. You're not going to get that. But to hear them say the vibe is better, to ask the players specifically, we feel like that there's more cohesion than what there's been. And not just guys that you go up to that you don't have some form of relationship with. You go and talk to players that, one, are role players on this team and significant contributors. You get a good gauge from both. But you go to guys that are leaders, and for them to tell you, listen, this does feel different, that showed to me on Thursday.
I thought it did too, and I thought it showed on the trip. You can tell a lot when you travel with a team, and we're fortunate we get to do that in the charters and the buses and the hotels. Watch them around the hotel. Watch them on the airplane.
Thank you,
Watch
Coach.
How they, yeah, exactly. Watch how they interact with each other. And we have been around some things, and we've seen some things in locker rooms that you don't want to even talk about amongst teammates. This group is not. Now, it's early. It's early.
Yeah.
They haven't been through the real adversity yet, and that'll happen. Of
course.
But in the meantime, this group has been really good.
They have been great, and that's what gives you so much hope about going on the road for the very first time. During the press conference, I had a chance to ask Braylon Presley, are you surprised with the maturity level? Don't pay no attention to people that are coming in.
Grasshoppers.
Literally, they're trying to get grasshoppers out of the building. It is Arkansas. So I asked Braylon Presley during the press conference if he has been surprised at the maturity of the number of young guys that they have, and he said, I'm not surprised because in living in this and seeing how they respond to things, how they have elevated their play, the competition that they provided, it gives me that much more hope seeing the way that they've responded with going on the road, that they're going to come in here and have the mindset and mentality of let's take care of business. I think we're both in agreement the September part of the schedule is paramount if they want to have success towards the end of the year. And this is one of those places that you come out here 2-0, it changes the landscape of everything. Even writers from the national media at that point are probably, you'll see McMurphy probably have Tulsa like in bowl projections if they come out of here like 2-0. It changes everything.
It does, and then you realize you've got some challenges ahead in September, and you've got some tough road challenges ahead. So yes, that 2-0 makes a difference. It makes a difference in a young team that had been fragile mentally a few years ago. I think that's changing, and I got to tell you, I got to give Kelvin Wilson a lot of credit for this. When he took the program, he is so different than anyone I've been around in the position here at TU. Very different than what they've had before. That's not that it's better or worse for anybody who's been here, but he is very different. But what you don't get from him initially is how he builds that in his team, and he does it by having players make players accountable.
Yeah.
And that is a big deal. But I also think that even though you can see him and he's very businesslike, right? He's a guy who, if he's busy and he's talking to you, he may give you 3 or 4 words, but he's doing something else and he's going to go do that. It's not that it's unfriendly, it's that it's focused. I think his team starts to reflect that, and they understand how he and that coaching staff care about him.
By the way, we're so many minutes into this, I forgot to tell you the token. Hey, hit that subscribe button, the like button here on this page. You can always reach out, poplandshow@gmail.com. Send me an email if you have any questions whatsoever. I promise, now that I've settled into my new role at my real job, not that this isn't a real job, in my real job we'll have more content coming up on a weekly basis, but feel free to reach out anytime that you want, and it's at Popland Show on the YouTube account as well. So, and I appreciate everyone that has. It's always awesome to come on the road and see parents that are here. I saw Heather and Mark McGarry, who make almost every single road trip. They are awesome people. A lot of the parents that are coming down here as well. So if any of you parents are watching and you have any questions or comments about how the trip ended up being, let's go. Let's talk about it, because I love hearing about stories on the road. Dinner last night was awesome. We wanted to go to a different place. So you come here, I mean, you can't swing a dead cat over your head without hitting a barbecue joint.
That's right.
But you've been coming to Memphis for a long time with football and basketball. I feel like you've tried probably all of them, but there's one place, A&R, that we haven't tried yet. We wanted to go, had some responsibilities, mainly Bruce. We didn't get to go, so we fell on a staple, and it was Corky's, and my goodness, Corky's ended up being an absolute home run last night.
Not only that, we got there a little bit later. It was close to 9 o'clock, and there was nobody there, which is also a big deal.
Perfect.
But I will say this, rib-wise, and I've had rendezvous when they were great, and that's really hard to beat. I don't know that anything beat what I had last night.
No, it was great. Absolutely great. So even though it was kind of, Plan B ended up being A+ last night in terms of dinner. All right, what are you going to see tonight, or at least what you feel like that we're going to see tonight?
Well, I think, first of all, what I hope to see is a little bit more progression from that offensive line. This is an Arkansas State team that that beat a Central Arkansas team who's very good. Still, in my mind, it's an FCS team. It's a different thing, but they're still really good. And they played in big-time FCS games. This group here has got a lot of nasty. Here, to me, is one of the biggest deals is how you respond to that. If you come out and get punched, and I mean face, gut, all over the place, this is like Rocky against the Russian in the first one, you know what I'm saying? You're going to make sure that you got to be able to come back from that. And I think that is going to be a real key. I think you see steps from that offensive line tonight and continued good work from that linebacking core.
Yeah, I'm pumped to see the physical aspect that you brought up today with an opponent that looks the part. I mean, my goodness, you go across there too deep, and they are massive up front. Just to tell you how big they are, I was texting with Big O, Jerry Ostrowski, during the Central Arkansas game, and I said, hey man, I'm watching this game, and he flipped over and was watching it too, and he made a comment about they're massive up front. That is the exact time that they were playing 4 backups. So you have someone that played a decade in the NFL saying, look how massive they are up front, and it's all of their backups. So I want to see how they handle that, and I want to see the continued involvement from every single position. I think that you would say that in terms of depth and quality depth and playmakers, this is probably the deepest that we've seen since some of those teams 19 and 20 that competed for the American Athletic Conference Championship.
Yeah, that's that. You go back to the 16 group that were really good, you know, that kind of thing. But you do have to go to those kinds of groups, I think, to get what we have here this time. Now let's just keep that rolling.
All right, so I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I'm going to try to walk around the stadium a little bit, kind of give you just a little feel for what it looks like up in the press box and walking in through some of the suites, and stay tuned for continued coverage. I'll bring you some on-the-field stuff as well, and then when we get done, we'll have post-game. We'll do some reactions on that. Trust me, we'll have time driving back to the airport in Memphis, so we may just jump on and do something from live in the car on the way back and see how much we can really bug Bruce while he's bugging me about directions at the exact same time for trying to get us home.
That's how you see the real what goes on behind the scenes here.
And that is the entire point of this channel. All right, again, hit the subscribe button. I have a 7-year-old that needs a new pair of shoes when I can eventually monetize this thing. But we got a long way to go before we can get there. So right now, we'll just settle for you giving us a thumbs up and also leaving a nice comment. We'll see you on the other side here on the Rain and Cane podcast.